Welcome to the Jackass Express Podcast. We're having our podcast on Friday the 13th. What could go wrong? Absolutely nothing. Today we have joining us currently Mr. Dan, who has not been with us for a very, very long time, but I'm very glad. And also we have the illustrious, the king himself, Mr. Jeffrey Mickelson. Sir, thank you for being here today.
You didn't get Dan a chance to even finish his hello.
Well, he said, "What's up?" very loudly.
That's okay. It was just a what's up.
Yeah, see, like,
it sounded like you went.
It's like the Budweiser.
Although I am interrupting my weekend festivities with the family to be here, so.
Dan, that means so much to me. You know what? I feel so bad. I don't want to take you away from your family. Wait, I'm not that important. We're not that important. But I'm really glad you're here.
That's okay. Neither are they, really.
Look.
I am not, because it's late here.
It's late. And I appreciate Jeff being here. I know it's past his bedtime, and it means a great deal, sir. And I will have to apologize to everybody for full disclosure. Last week, we did attempt to record a podcast. I, being the advanced, mature veteran of podcasts, forgot to check if the audio was actually recording. So that's on me. But I did do a check. We did a test here, and we should be recording now. So if it falls apart again, I think I'll just give up on podcasting altogether and go open a bakery of some kind.
Just phone it in. Phone it in.
Yes, bakery.
I think it's best you don't open a bakery.
Yeah, well, why not? I like cupcakes.
If you can't handle hitting record, you probably don't want to be around food for other people.
Look, man, I'm just going to follow the back of the box on Betty Crocker. It's all that's there. Anyway, gentlemen, how are you doing today? I guess we can start with myself. I'll just be honest. You know, it's been an interesting couple of days. Work, of course, takes over. It has a lot of fun things. You got a lot of angry people in the insurance business nowadays, especially nowadays. And, you know, the kids are happy. Wife is happy. That's as most as I can ask for. Mr. Dan, how are you doing, sir? How are things in Canada?
Still good, still Canadian, still have a prime minister that likes to bark, and I like him. Because he likes to clap back at Trump, and that's amazing. But no, I mean, otherwise, personally, doing pretty good. Getting back into D&D. October 22nd was the last day I had a cigarette after 26 years.
Congratulations. Wow. That's awesome,
and
sir.
I use the patch to quit, but I have, just no... There's no craving, I need to go back to that or struggling. It was just, weird circumstance, and I've been able to kick it, and that's been pretty awesome. So
badass.
Otherwise, kids are doing all right. I have an almost 16-year-old and a 12-year-old now. So
God help you.
Crazy.
Dan, that's amazing. That's amazing. I'll tell you right now, my grandfather, he smoked his entire life, and unfortunately, that's what claimed him at the end. And so I'm genuinely happy for you, because it was a hard time. It sucked really bad. So it does hurt people around you, but I'm glad that you were able to do it, man. You're my hero right now.
It's tough. They say it's harder than kicking heroin.
It can be, because it doesn't have the same scary things around it, but it can be just as bad.
Well, I'm just thinking, if I can quit smoking, I might as well take up heroin, right?
That's one way to look at it, yeah.
If it's worse than heroin, might as well go to the B-class narcotic.
I did the hard thing. Now I can take heroin for a while and quit it pretty easily, so, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, if one day all the spoons disappear from inside your drawers, we'll know what really happened there. It'll make sense. But no, truly awesome, great. Glad to hear the family's doing good. D&D, we're going to touch on that very quickly. But before we do, I want to ask Mr. Jeff. Mr. Jeff, how are you doing, sir? How has been your week? I know you've had some fun times, both with duct taping the walls and with everything that's been going on in national news. But how are you, sir?
Yeah. Good. It's going to be somewhat warm tomorrow, so we're happy. All the snow and ice might actually melt.
That would be wonderful. That'd be wonderful. Is it still leaking?
Is what still leaking?
Anything still leaking?
Oh, no. We didn't have a leak, but we have lots of gaps in the walls in this wonderful rental house, so the heat runs all the time because it's also the same room that the thermostat's in.
Mm-hmm.
So some rooms are super, super hot and others are Very cold.
I was told, that my dad's running around putting duct tape on everything.
We got some insulating tape or some like what you put on windows to help keep them from leaking cold air, and put those all over the cracks.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've seen the pictures out from where you are, and that's insane. I think Julian had snow all the way up to his lamppost out in the front.
Yeah.
And it's like, how does it get that high? And I've lived in El Paso all my life, so the best we get is maybe a small little spit of...
I was going to say, like, where is he? Because that seems excessive.
It was 4 or 5 inches of snow and then 2 or 3 inches of freezing rain on top of it. So I've never seen anything like that.
Sick.
Mm.
Yeah. I could stand on the snow and not break through after it got done the next day.
Awesome.
It was cool at first, and then not so cool when the kids are out of school all week, driving their mom crazy, and I'm still having to go to work.
How do you get to work, Jeff?
Yeah, I guess that's...
I have a truck.
Nice.
So I can get out of the neighborhood.
It's like, okay, yes, I know you're trapped inside the house, but I'm the hell out of here. I'm going to go to work.
Yeah. Didn't really have much of a choice, though.
Well,
just look at the time. It's 4 a.m. I'm getting out of here.
Yep. Got to go to work early today.
It's 9 a.m. somewhere, and I can get a beer. Well, I give you a lot of credit, sir. I don't know how you do it. I appreciate that you do it. But, dang, I've seen those pictures over the last week. And this was in late January and early February that this started, right? It started building up.
It's been 2 or 3 weeks.
Huh?
It's been 2 or 3 weeks since it all happened.
In El Paso, it's like, everybody brace for impact. The cold is coming. And then we get this tiny little dusting of white powder, and it's nothing. But I kid you not, everybody in this bloody city acts like the apocalypse is coming. And they're like shutting down schools, and they're shutting down things. It's like, why? Why are they doing this? It makes no sense. I'm thinking, if the other cities saw us, especially like where Jeff lives, they would think we're the biggest cowards of all time. We bunker down like there's a, imminent threat, and it's just powder on the streets and all that. And it's like, it makes no sense to me.
When I was younger, I would have definitely made fun of you.
Oh, yeah. Well.
But I've since adopted the, fuck off. If you're used to it, they're not kind of thing. Like, as somebody that goes like in, I don't know, Scotland or whatever, and it goes up to like plus 20 Celsius. And they're like, holy fuck, it's hot here. And somebody from like Dubai is like, you think it's hot? Well, yeah, for them it is hot. Fuck right off. You know what I mean? And so I just kind of like, I don't shit on people anymore. I'm like, well, yeah, they're gonna shut down shit in El Paso because like, how often do you get fucking snow? Whereas like we get it every other day, and they're like, it's a fucking, we're expecting 10 centimeters of snow. Buses are running. They don't care.
You're a gentleman and a saint, Dan, because it snowed a little bit powdery in the morning, and by that afternoon, it was all gone. And it makes no sense to be in El Paso, but I appreciate your sensitivity to our situation. Because, we're like, I feel like we're like chickens here. It's like, and when I say chickens, I don't mean like cowards. I mean like literal chickens where like they're just reactive to the current situations of what's happening. And we're like, oh my God, it's cold. Oh my God, it's hot. Everything's a complaint. It's like, really? And it's
yeah, but I mean, when drivers aren't used to driving in snow, regardless of how little it is, I can understand them shutting down buses and stuff because you've never ever practiced. When I got my learner's permit, I was taken to a parking lot in the winter and told, make it fishtail, make it spin out, so that we could practice how to get out of that, because that's shit that can happen every day. I assume you guys don't learn how to drive like that.
That's true. No,
yeah, so that's why I'm like, well, I get it. Like, yeah, they're going to shut everything down because it's not a normal circumstance. You don't get snow all the time in El Paso. Why would you?
Exactly. We're essentially just a hot, arid area with desert and cactus and a bunch of problems. But it was definitely a treat for us to get anything resembling winter. We really, truly enjoyed it. Speaking of which, Dan, in your experience, what's the worst snowstorm you've ever really had to deal with? Growing up, 1 to now.
I couldn't put a year on it, but there's been years where we've gotten just excessive amounts of snow. Probably the worst one on record or that I can think of. I didn't have to personally deal with it. At a distance, I was laughing at the people that lived with it. 1998, the ice storm that hit the capital of Canada, Ottawa. There was just, everything was covered in ice. The whole city was shut down for like 3 weeks or something like that. It was insanity. Like, you can Google it and look it up. It was pretty crazy. But I didn't have to personally deal with that. While that was happening in Ottawa, I was sitting back in my hometown, little small town, Northern Ontario, going, ha, 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 ha. Which, you know, looking back now, I'm like, what an asshole.
Well, I mean, how old would you say you were in 1998? Would that, oh man, that had to have been, let me see.
1998?
Let me take a guess. Let me take a guess because I keep forgetting that you're much younger than I am. So you're 10, 11, you're 13. Oh my gosh. Okay. No, at that age, everything going wrong is supposed to be funny. So you're good.
Yeah, man. Like in 1999, I got to go to an alcohol party and I was allowed to drink because it was Y2K. And oh my God, like that's fucking awesome.
Oh my gosh.
It was like three houses down from the house I was living at. And I was like, Dad, can I go? And he's like, fine, don't drink. And I looked at him. He's like, I guess the world's going to end or something. Whatever. All right. I think I had 2 beer when I was there over the whole night, and I was home by 12:07.
Nice. Well, I mean,
done.
You had fun. That's the point. You had fun. It was the end of the world fun. That's pretty.
Oddly enough, fast forward fucking 24 years. I think it was 2 years ago. I was telling Y2K came up and I was trying to tell my daughter, and I guess I've kind of spun a couple of yarns over the years when it comes to her. So, you know, she has trouble believing me sometimes. And so I'm talking about this thing. I'm like, no, Y2K was the thing, you know, that they didn't think that the computer dates would be able to roll over to 2000. They thought it would reset to 0 and everything would shut down.
Right.
And she's looking at me like, come on, Dad, fuck off. And I noticed in the middle of this, I'm like, she doesn't believe a word I'm saying. So I'm like, no, it's true. Like, go on your phone and Google it, because when you say it out loud and you relive it to like a newer generation, yeah, it sounds fucking batshit. How did we fall for that?
Yeah. Yeah, but we didn't know any better. Computers had just, you know,
always worked.
Yeah, they almost worked. And we were playing games on them. There was MS Paint, and there was maybe, what was it, Minefield or something like that? And the snow thing with
Minesweeper?
Minesweeper,
but like, that was like 10 years before that. You're talking about like, computers were just invented. Please. Well, no, they've been around for a while.
The point is that we were being introduced to this concept of something can explode because it was created as a computer. And we're like, computer? I mean, I used to play Frogger, where you're essentially trying to get across the street. And then the other game where you ate letters and alphabets and an Oregon Trail. I mean, this was the beginnings of the...
You didn't eat letters and alphabets in Oregon Trail. You actually, there were some graphics in that.
No, I'm talking about Frogger, Jeff. It was a different game. It was like it had a math thing. It was a frog, and he would eat the letter A, and then you eat the letter P-P-L-E.
That's not Frogger.
No, it was a different thing.
I think you're mixing two games.
I think he is. Frogger was where you tried to cross the road.
Yes, that was one. That was one of them. But there was a different one with the frog, and it'd eat the letters, and you'd spell letters, and you'd get a point for that.
Yeah, that's school games you're talking about there.
Yeah.
What was that game? Upstairs, downstairs? It was just like a red and white house simulator. You run around as a mouse, collecting cheese.
That's awesome.
I don't know what the fuck point that was, but it was a great game. I played that in school a lot.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
back when teachers were thought that video games are educational, they'll help them out eventually, not get them addicted to spacing out from reality for countless hours. And it's like, well, no, it worked out. I mean, the Oregon Trail itself was amazing. And then there was a game, I don't know if you guys have heard this, called Midnight Rescue, where you would go around as a sleuth with a red cap and a blue jacket, and you had a magnifying glass, and you look for clues, and your job was to figure out how to get to the next level. And usually it had to do, Christopher Columbus had this opinion on, and it's like, okay, You got done with it, but at the time it was
That sounds like Mario in Time.
similar.
I think it was Mario in Time.
Mario?
Or Mario's Lost. Yeah, there was a Mario game, but it was like educational. And it would take you through. It was on Super Nintendo, I think.
Are you talking about Mario?
Whatever.
I don't think I'd ever heard it referred to that way.
Jeff.
I'm
please.
sorry.
That's the Canadian me, eh?
That's true. I forget that you are from up there.
Look, everybody, we need to calm down. We need to take a deep breath. It's going to be fine. Luigi, we're going to be all right.
Fuck, it's going to bother me now, though. I can't remember what it was called.
Oh, man. There's so many great
There
games.
was also Carmen Sandiego.
Yes. Did you ever watch the show, Jeff?
Yes.
Where in the world?
Oh, fuck yeah. I watched it like every day after school.
Yeah.
And I think that Hanson stole their song. Do you remember at the end of Where in the World was Carmen Sandiego? You'd get the guys in the back and they're like, remember that? Did anybody remember that? Or is it just
No.
me? You don't remember that?
No.
No, that's just you.
I'm gonna find the video and I'll make you watch it.
I am disappointed that that TV show is no longer available, because I would love to watch that with the kids.
I'm sure it's
Is
somewhere.
it not?
I haven't been able to find it.
I have to introduce you to this one website that I know called Just Watch. That has been my that's been my silver bullet in trying to find old shows that I cannot find anymore. Let's see if I can find it. I'm gonna go to Just Watch right now.
I've got a site. I can't say it on here. I'll put it in the chat somewhere. But
Look, this one just
I've just found
identifies where it is at the moment, Dad. I'm not saying it's available to watch it there because, I realize those sites exist. Wow, okay. Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego is currently not available for free. Okay, so wait. No, yeah, okay. It's not available for free.
I threw a link in the podcast related. This is a site that I use all the time. I pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
It is still the borderline, probably not at all legal, but borderline legal. Cost me, I think it's 25 euros a year.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever that is, $50 or something. And it's great. I just found Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, 1995.
Wow.
Seasons 1 through 5, all episodes.
Oh.
Let's see.
Yeah, so you don't have to pay for it. It will give you ads, but all the ads are for its paid service.
Okay.
They're all, and last I had them, they were like 15 seconds long, so they're not terrible.
$29.50. Yeah, that's not bad.
I will give that a shot, but see if I can get the kids into that instead of whatever crap it is they're watching these days.
What even are your kids watching these days? I'm curious because, like I said, mine are 16 and 12, so like they're sticking to like I don't even know. It's some of the older stuff, but like Jacksepticeye, I know they still watch that guy. Some other shit like that. But like, what are your kids watching?
You go first, Pat.
Josh is really into. Jeez. He loves anything having to do Minecraft related still to this day. He loves anything having to do with conspiracy theories surrounding video games. So he doesn't really watch Pat on YouTube, his older stuff, but he really enjoys the conspiracy theories around that. In other words, he likes informational things. He likes things that have to do with things about video games that many people have not figured out yet. And then Allie, she's more of like into the kids who play with slime, and then they think it's cool. Let's make our own slime. It's so easy. Just go get a tissue paper and some glue and your daddy's credit card, and it's like, okay, I'm sick of that, But I just heard outside my door right now, Josh, he's saying, "Daddy, I heard you." And too bad.
Quit talking shit, Dad.
Too bad, child. But yeah, no, they're into a lot of YouTube stuff. Recently had to take away main YouTube from the littlest one because she was acting too much like the ladies on YouTube for the kids channel. And I think it's going to work to the benefit, but that's the type of stuff they like.
For now.
They like informational stuff, I should say. And then, of course, they like they were really into Bluey, but I think they watched it too many times, so now they're really into like Big City Green.
That is a surprisingly good show as an adult.
Bluey or Big City Green?
Like, yeah, Bluey. If
Yeah,
you cut
it's a
through the
great
shit
show.
and just like it is a great show.
It is.
My cousin's got a 5-year-old and he's got autism. He fucking loves that show. So it's on all the time when we're at his place. And like, man, some of the relationship between the dad and the mom are so fucking relatable. It's unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
I love Bluey. I hate to admit, but almost every night at some point we watch Sleepy Time because Jupiter, excellent, and the kids are used to it. So it's almost like I've hypnotized them into when they hear that song, they fall asleep, and it works every time, guys. I don't want to tell you, but it works every time.
Oh, that's great.
ASMR, Patrick.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, it works. Anyway.
Yes.
And you, Jeff?
Anyway.
What are your kiddos working on? Or watching?
The youngest will watch all sorts of cartoons, and she's into some weird Disney shows, like one where I think a dog with a blog.
Oh no. Cool.
So
Sounds interesting.
it is not, but she likes it, and it's not YouTube.
Fair.
Her sister would rather watch YouTubers doing either talking about video games or playing video games or other random crap like that. I don't get it, but that's what she likes. I would rather she watches normal TV like we did when we were their age.
I'm trying to find, like, I'm on the wrong computer. I had found a link for a website that emulates TV, like from 1950s all the way up to the 2000s.
Oh, that'd be great.
And yeah, you can leave it on random, and so it'll run through like an episode of the like Price is Right from 1972 with commercials, and it looks like a TV. It sounds like a TV. It plays ads. It's got music videos. It was incredible. I just can't find the link. If I find it, I'll put it in the chat for
Sounds amazing.
Please do.
for you guys. But it's pretty awesome.
My favorite memories, ironically, were the times that I would stay home sick, and my parents would actually agree that I was sick, and my grandma would come to keep an eye on me, and every time we'd watch Price is Right. And before I went into school, and I had to be watched by her, my brothers both went to a local church for their like pre-K, and it was this Emmanuel Baptist. They were taken care of. I didn't get that. I stayed home with grandma, and grandma, my church was The Price is Right with Bob Barker. It was the greatest childhood I ever had. And
Just put the link in the chat for you.
okay, let's take a look at that.
But you're not wrong. I understand what you're saying, because when I watched that old Price is Right, I'm like, oh man, yeah, that reminds me of sick days. Fucking hauled off to the farm to be at grandma's house,
Yes.
and we watched fucking that stuff, like Young and the Restless, because that's what grandma watched, and like
that was
whatever
what was
else
on
came
next.
on. Those were that's what came on next.
Wow.
Yeah, I messed around on that website a little bit. I went into the 90s and then into 2000s and come to realize that the majority of the memories that I thought were in the 90s were actually in the early 2000s. So that was kind of interesting.
Wow.
But yeah, it's really cool. And there's a bunch of buttons at the bottom where you can like kind of change how it functions. There's one of the sounds gets annoying after a little while, so you can turn that off. But yeah, on that main screen, there's just it's super cool, super cool.
Oh my
and it's free, so I guess it doesn't matter. I don't have to gatekeep it. It's myretrotvs.com.
There you go. Wow. I'm looking at it right now. I'm messing with all this check marks and stuff.
Yeah.
This is insane.
It's nuts.
How does this exist? It seems extremely not
I don't
okay.
know. I think like somebody had just had a backlog of shit recorded, or I don't know, man.
Like the
It's super
Internet
cool.
Archive or something.
Like archived it, Jeff.
Yeah, maybe.
Absolutely, like archive. Wow. There's this one app station called Pluto TV, and it's kind of similar to this. And you get like the Nickelodeon cartoons, Hey Arnold, Rugrats, and they just don't have Ren and Stimpy, and that's what ticks me off. But I've seen my kids watching stuff that we grew up with, and they're like, this is great, this is awesome. And I was trying to think, why did they stop showing this stuff? Why did they stop showing the older stuff? I have no clue. It was so good. It had it was educated. It had intelligence to it. And nowadays, I feel like and correct me if I'm wrong, gents, the shows that they watch nowadays are just so mindless. There's not like a message. It's like, hey, we're gonna go farm some apples. Let's go farm apples. Oh, so and so slipped. And it's like, what's that? What's this? And Hey Arnold's dealing with kids who are like addicted to chocolate. You know, like, oh, this kid is a metaphor for someone who's addicted to something a lot worse than chocolate. You know, and I was like, hey, we didn't know what that was, but it was making a point, and it didn't feel like they were trying to preach, but they weren't trying to shy away from the point they were trying to make. And it was so cool. But now it's like, wow. When I was a kid, Ren and Stimpy was a kids show on Nickelodeon. Every single Rocko's Modern Life was a kids show. Oh. Nowadays, it's like you watch Rocko's Modern Life, like, whoa, there's some stuff in there that would not fly nowadays. I was like,
yeah, I always considered those two cartoons specifically to be a little on the rough side, even when I was a kid. I didn't watch them because I was just like, it's kind of advanced. I don't want to watch that.
Yeah.
I didn't watch them because we didn't have cable.
Oh, understood. So you were watching.
Oh, like, Jeff, always bringing us down.
That's my job.
Hey, you rich kids. By the way, you suck. We weren't rich.
That's right.
We weren't rich. All we could afford was cable and Fruity Pebbles.
Basic cable at that, man. Basic cable.
Basic.
We didn't get fucking the movie channels. Do you remember when the movie channels was a thing?
Oh, yeah.
Like specific. I don't know if that's a Canadian thing, but it was specifically you would call the cable company and order the movie channels.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you had that, like you're like, oh shit, your parents made it.
Oh, we had that. HBO was this little silver thing they put in the back of your TV, and it would descramble the channels in a certain way so you could watch it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those. Yeah.
And then it was so funny is that when I was a kid, I remember that my parents were like, okay, we can't afford HBO anymore. We can't watch, whatever news thing that was going on, political commentary that was happening on HBO. So the guy would come over and be like, okay, I'm going to have to adjust your TV. And I'm like, okay. So they come in. And then he'd leave, and we'd go back, and we'd look at that. He literally just unscrewed the thing from the coaxial cable. And my parents were like, oh, well, guys, I'm sorry. We don't have that anymore. And me and Johnny are like, what if we just, screwed it back in? And we screwed it back in, and it would work.
I think you'd have to know the frequency if you didn't have the piece, but you could, create those filters.
Exactly my point. And but
such a better time.
It was a better time because everything was more analog. There was a lot less, concern about what people were doing because, at the end of the day, everybody's just trying to make it. Everybody's just trying to watch TV. But obviously, it's probably not good for a bunch of young gentlemen going into college or into high school to be able to access certain channels. But at the same time, it was available, and it was what our reality was. That's how it worked. But no, it was a very different time. I'm honestly more overwhelmed because I don't want to say I'm against or I'm for, but I'm overwhelmed by the current level of technology that exists. That's what scares me because we're dealing in a very,
depending on what you're talking about, I agree,
very prolific generation of AI generated content, of AI generated music, video. And I heard this one really good quote one time. It's like, AI was supposed to be developed to handle the jobs that were the technical stuff so that we could focus on the arts and the crafts and all that stuff. But it seems like that's all AI is taking over is the arts and the crafts. They're making their own content. They're making their own stories. I heard that Sony made a patent on AI podcasts recently. And it's like, are you kidding me? Because it's so available. Anybody could do it. And it bothers me because I'm thinking, wait a minute. There's a certain amount of growth that happens in attempting to build something on your own. But when you're surrendering it to something else that can do it for you, you're kind of not exercising a brain muscle that you're supposed to have for growth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's a little bit of your creativity.
Exactly. Or you have the creativity, but you don't have the acumen to back it up. You know, I want to be a painter. I don't need to
through.
paint. I just need to think of what I want to have painted. And it's like, wait a minute. You don't develop any
For me,
skills.
it's follow through on that. I can be creative. I can think of cool shit that I want to do for D&D. But then I'm like, fuck, there's like 900,000 steps to make that, and I don't feel like doing it. So I will take an idea into ChatGPT and be like, hey, this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. But I'm still like, I don't know, I'm just using it to do the legwork, and then I'll take bits and pieces and be like, okay, I like that, I don't like that, and I'll just like rewrite it on my own. Mm-hmm. So like I'll use it as a stepping stone, and you know, just to do a bit of the grindy, the research, the whatever. But for the most part, I take an idea into it, and I think that's okay. But if I, as a DM, was just like, I don't know, create the whole thing and then just present it to you, it's like, well, fuck, what's fun in that?
Exactly.
You know, it doesn't do anything for me as a creative. I don't understand why we're doing it that way. And then you look at in your workspaces what they're trying to do with automation of all sorts of shit. Like eventually it looks like they're working towards like not really having any staff in retail environments.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what are we supposed to do when we don't have a job?
Yeah.
Right? We're not going to benefit, and it's not like, oh, you got more free time to do shit. It's like, yeah, but who's going to pay the mortgage? Because somebody's going to keep wanting that. So, you know, like, I don't know, you can use that shit as like a tool, but the way it's going to try and take over shit, like you're only going to go so far, and then what? If you got AI and fucking robots doing all of your job and all these people without a job that are still expected to pay bills,
yep, what
happens?
And you know, and that's really the rub. That's really the rub right there, is that at what point are we using AI to assist us in our day to day, and at what point are we training them to take over our jobs? You know, and I think that's where a lot of the insecurities and a lot of the questions come from, is that at what point does this data that we're willingly giving into this system, willingly, not being tricked into it, there's not some government conspiracy. No, it's just, hey, you know, ChatGPT, can you help me make sure that Mrs. So-and-so is able to balance her budget for the year of 2024 or whatever? Then all of a sudden it's like, well, hey, maybe you're not needed to ask that question anymore. And we're teaching it how to ask these questions about real concerns and real problems. And I see that. And I think what bothers me the most is the over-reliance that I'm seeing the younger generations having on it. And instead of using it like a novelty, a cool thing, hey, make me a picture of what I would look like as a cool Dragon Ball character. Instead, they're like, hey, here's my homework. Give me all the answers and do the work for me so I can show it. And it's like, hey, wait a minute. I get that homework sucks. I get it. But there's a reason it sucks. It's because it stresses your mind to learn, you know? And if you're not, you know, challenging your mind to learn, your mind's not going to grow, and your mind's going to stagnate. And eventually you're going to become over-reliant on it. And then when it goes away, good luck. It's like any natural utility. That's how I kind of look at it. It's like a utility. We have electricity. We have water. We have, I don't know what else. Jeff, help me out here. Internet, I guess? No, internet's not a natural utility. Damn you, Al Gore. But those things, if taken away, just one of them, we kind of become helpless, don't we? Unless you're trained to survive without them. And what bothers me about AI is that it's essentially, oh, you don't need to think. You don't need to problem solve. You don't need to come up with solutions to problems outside of anybody else's influence. No, it's, I have a problem, you solve it. And that's a dangerous mindset to get into, I think, personally. You know? And
whereas back in the early 90s, if we had a problem, he'd solve it.
That's right.
You know? Or at the very least, you'd go to what? Fellow people. You go to a community of people. At school. Hey guys, I couldn't beat this level in Zelda. What did you do? Well, did you try looking over here? I mean, there was a conglomerate of information that would help you, but...
Or you called the number that Nintendo gave you and paid by the minute for them to walk you through the level.
Yeah, there's that too, yeah.
That's very fair.
Nintendo Power.
Look, you're not supposed to be making the case for it to be a good thing, Jeff. I'm trying to help out here. But yeah, no, that, I mean, in other words, the challenge gets erased, and there's a scary feeling in that because then you don't learn to overcome challenges. Is that just me, or is that like a weird thing? And then
no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're gonna come to rely on it too much. Like, I don't know. Part of me feels like we should just go back to being hunter-gatherers and just fucking let everything sort itself out.
Whoa. Because, Dan, some of us wouldn't make that Darwin leap very easily. Okay, man. I still need to be able to go to Walmart and capture my prey in the produce aisle.
Nah, you'd get by. Or you wouldn't, either way.
Or I wouldn't. Yeah, exactly. But I think when it comes to stuff like that, you don't want eventually surgeons to be like, hey, ChatGPT, where should I be putting the incision on this artery here? Let me think about that. There are many options to.
Well, that's where you hope that robotics and automation take over. Because you don't want some dude being like, hey, AI, how the fuck do I do this? Mm-hmm. But I would trust a fucking programmed robot, I think. I don't know why I say that, but I feel like I would.
I think it would be like a cell phone. I'd trust a second or third generation. We'll see. Jeff, how's your take on this? Because I know you deal with things and processes and concepts that can probably should not be automated. What are your thoughts on that, sir? Without getting into too much detail.
AI is a useful tool, but I've seen a lot of folks, even at work, start to rely on it for everything, and it's not great. Mm-hmm. It doesn't write very well. It's very easy once you know the tells to know something was written in AI. Mm-hmm. But when you're distilling a large amount of information and wanting to sort through it, it can do that pretty effectively.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I'll say like concepts that I have a problem explaining. I usually will put into something like ChatGPT, can you explain this to me like I'm a 5-year-old? And as Jeff knows, I often need to be explained things like I'm a 5-year-old. So I often do that, and it helps me translate the information to someone who does know nothing about, like, let's say insurance. A person may not understand what a deductible is, and I may not be able to explain it in a way that makes sense to them. Well, why am I paying it if I'm going to have to pay something eventually later? Well, no, it's because they need to make sure that you're serious about it being a real problem. Well, what? It doesn't make sense to me if I'm playing. Well, okay, that makes sense. But it kind of tells them, this is your way of proving that you're really serious about the thing that you're saying went wrong. And the explanation that comes with, I'm all for it clarifying, simplifying, and making it digestible. But it doesn't replace the understanding of it. You know what I mean? Your responsibility is the understanding of it. But if you need help clarifying it, it does serve that function in a certain way.
Yeah, but that's where you draw the line. It becomes a tool that you can use or that can be in the toolbox. It just should not replace anything.
Real knowledge, real study, yeah.
Yeah, or a thought.
Fair, very fair.
Yeah.
Or discernment. Yeah, because you can discern as a human being. Is this person able to handle this information? And is this person not able to handle this information? And maybe they need a different way to look at it. And AI doesn't have that, differentiation. It's just going to say, here's the complete facts. And they're going to use the information however they want. So it's a double-edged sword. You get the answer you want, but maybe it's not what's going to necessarily help them in the best case scenario, Let's see.
Yeah. So if I were to ask you guys, and this is going to kind of change, I feel like this is a parallel topic, but we'll see. So if I were to ask you guys, what do you think the one thing is that made Homo sapiens the only species of the Homo genus? Like, what do you think it is? What evolution do you think happened? Or just what do you think it was that gave us an edge over all of the, like, Homo erectus, and there's a few other that I don't remember.
Oh my goodness.
That's a good one.
I lack the ability to do that. I'm going to go to ChatGPT immediately to think for me. Not really. Oh my gosh. The way I understand your question, Dan, and please correct me. You're asking why does our species prosper where other species may not as much? Is that what it
specifically Homo sapiens? What made Homo sapiens the dominant breed of all other humans? Because there was Homo erectus, there was Neanderthals, there was I'm trying to remember what it said. Basically, I'm reading a book, and it kind of outlines it, like what happened, and it's very interesting to think about.
Wow!
But anyway, there's a whole bunch of genus.
This is like you're talking about. Hey, why are we better than the hobbits from Middle Earth? Oh shit, Dan.
Basically, yeah. So there was a bunch of different genes within a human species, and we Homo sapiens became the only one. But there was something that happened because for roughly 100,000 years we existed alongside all of these things, and we were doing nothing different, nothing that stood out, nothing fantastical. So what do you think it is that happened that allowed us to be better than all of them and eventually wipe them all out?
If I know anybody who's an expert, masterful level explaining why they're better than anybody else, it's Jeff. So Jeff, if you could please
don't say me.
Take it away.
Probably something to do with adaptability.
Learning.
That's a good question.
Okay, so the book that I'm reading was recommended to me by a coworker because we were talking about time travel.
Ooh.
And the idea that everybody, it's like, if you could time travel, what would you do? And everyone's always like, I'd go back and kill Hitler, or I'd go back to this time and change something.
Right.
And I said, I would be more curious to go back to the discovery of fire and how that progressed. Not just, wood gets hot, causes fire. But early humans would have had to seen something like, let's say, lightning strikes a tree. Tree catches fire, and they're like, oh, what's that? Oh, that's magic. And then the water comes and the magic goes away. And then, what's that development like? And obviously something like that wouldn't have been a singular happenstance.
Right.
Because of all of the different genuses of humans at the time.
Right.
So I would just like to go back in time and kind of watch that progression, see how we figured out how to cook shit and how to, harness fire and recreate it and carry it and all that stuff. And then the other thing that I said to him was, people talk about alternate realities and such. And I said, in my opinion, there is no an alternate reality isn't something that you can go to, because the alternate realities are each individual human being that lives on the planet.
Yeah.
Pat's experience in life is going to be different than Jeff's. It's going to be different than mine. It's going to be different than Tip's.
Yep.
All of our views on things are going to be different, and that's a different reality, right? And so in saying these things, he said, I'm going to recommend a book to you, and the book is called Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind.
Ooh, okay. Hang on.
It is a fantastic read. Fantastic read. I've only got 3 chapters in so far, but basically what they say is, what they can best determine is that what happened was we realized that we could imagine things that didn't exist.
Right.
That is the thing that allowed us to wipe out all other genomes within the human species.
Oh.
Because we could imagine, this is how early gods were created, because, hey, we didn't do that dance and so it didn't rain. We must have pissed somebody off, that kind of thing. And we could convince people. And the more people we convince, the more people are cooperating, the bigger gatherings can get, the bigger, and then by the time we domesticated wheat, or as the book would argue, wheat domesticated us, then it was at that point we started having to stay home and thinking that was better and all that sort of stuff. So it's a super cool read, but I'm most curious to ask people, what do you think it is that separated our genome from everything else? What gave us that uprising?
I feel like Jeff's the authority in this, so I'm going to have to defer to him.
Well, thank you.
That's my way of saying Jeff's smarter than me. I'm going to throw it on him.
That is, I think, a very interesting way to look at it. And it's interesting in the context of that goes beyond imagination, because it was all over the news a week ago about the bonobo who demonstrated like an imagination with imaginary tea.
Oh, okay.
Like that.
Okay.
So, but that is thinking of things that don't exist, but it isn't thinking of things that don't exist and how can you make them happen.
Mm-hmm.
But not really sure.
It could be a beginning of it, though, right? I mean,
Right.
Like I said, this whatever this is that happened, and again, that's their best guess in this book. It was hundreds of thousands of years ago. So, 100,000 years later, did bonobos start to figure it out? Maybe. It would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I find a lot of stuff in this book. It kind of makes you think. And then there's a section in it that talks about a company. So there's a company, it's a car company. I can't remember which one they're talking about, but anyway, in the example that they use, it's a French car company. And they say, well, this company exists. Maybe?
Hot Wheels. Got it.
Shit, I don't remember what it was. But it's the idea that the company exists regardless of its employees.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a CEO that runs the company. Is he the company? Well, no, because a CEO can be fired and replaced and the company still exists.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And what is the company? Is it a physical? Well, there's a building that the company operates out of, but is that the business? No, it's not. What is the company? And it was the first LLC, and that's kind of what was it, 1892, I think it was. So it was the first LLC that was created in the world, and so that company still exists today.
Wow.
But the man that created it, he's obviously no longer alive because people don't live that long. And yeah, it's kind of neat to think of that. But basically everything that we use and do is made up. Money doesn't actually exist.
Yeah.
You know, we've just decided that something has value based on arbitrary facts.
Wow.
It's just a really cool read. I would recommend it to anybody. It kind of just, if you like to go down those kind of roads, it really makes you think. It's a very neat book.
That's cool. Okay, so hang on. Before we move on any further, I want to get this right. Sapiens: Brief History for Humankind is what you said it was called.
Of A Brief History of Humankind. It's Yuval Noah Harari.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna definitely look into that because that's fascinating to me. You know, it's interesting because today, Dan, as a matter of fact, we had this guy who came into the office, and we were always having fun people who come into the office, and he was talking with Johnny, and he's talking about something called the law of reversibility. And I'm like, I've never heard this term before, but he compares it to something that happened in the movie Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio, who recently had a movie in El Paso. Hopefully he did a good job. And it has to do with the idea that anything that is created can be reversed back into its concept of origination. And I look at that stuff and I think, okay, these are people who are looking to experience reality in a way that they can control. And I get that. I do truly understand that concept because we are all at some point at a loss for control. I mean, my God, if you have kids, and I know you boys do, so we understand what it is to lose control. But at some point, there's a hope, a feeling that there is a return from that chaos to control. And that control is what we kind of aspire to, and it kind of shapes our personalities, our actions, our concepts, our books, our music, our video games, anything that we do nowadays, because I consider video games on the same level as books nowadays. Maybe not on the same level. I'm sorry, Jeff. I didn't mean to insult you, but yes, the video games have severe impact because they have a lesson, they have a lore, they have a concept, they have a reason. And I think with humans, with Homo sapiens, like you said, Dan, there is a belief of something else outside of our peripheral, outside of our reality, that we understand, that we believe, that we materialize. And for someone like me, it's more like, I know for a fact my kid can do much better than me at life. Much better than me. Because he's smarter than I am. I can see that at an infant age. I can see this kid doing better than me. And any father's probably going to think that too. But I have no proof.
Nope.
I have no evidence. But I truly can tell this kid based off of experience because your demeanor, your behavior, your concepts, your creativity, your generosity, your kindness, whatever, you're going to get much further than me. So there is this kind of not necessarily control, but understanding that things will play out a certain way outside of our own influence. But you can just kind of see it. And it's interesting how humans perceive that, right? We have that ability, but we don't really talk about it. We don't really say, oh, we know that so-and-so likes playing with blocks. So one day they could be an engineer. They like playing with numbers.
Maybe not that young.
You know? But
at some point it does come along, but maybe not when they're like super young. But I'll tell you this right now, my son can't spell for shit. He's not outdoing me.
That's that's daughter too.
It is kind of, it's a little bit baffling, right? Like I look at my daughter. They don't teach cursive writing in school anymore.
No, they don't.
Nope.
But my daughter was like, well, screw that noise. I want to learn. And she went online and taught herself.
Good for her.
And that's incredible, right?
It is incredible. Good for her.
My son relies so heavily on the phone that he has for spelling basic things. Even phonetically, it is hard to decipher what it is that he's writing out. I think that's just like his choice to rely so heavily on technology, right? So I'm like, I hope he gets a job somewhere that he can use a lot of like speech to text and shit like that. Because trying to decipher some of his text messages sometimes is rough.
Oh yeah.
Oh, these poor kids, man. These poor kids.
I know.
I don't know. The expectations for them are astronomical, and the temptation to cheat to keep up with the rising demands is insane because it's impossible almost without it. And I feel bad for them. I really do. I thought I had it rough as a kid. Nope. I feel bad for these kids. They have 50 tests.
That's one of those things. It's like technology is advanced, but their learning hasn't really. It's come, and like, I don't know if it's a thing down where you guys are or wherever you guys live, but they up until like grade 9 or 10, you can't fail.
Nope.
They put regardless of your skill level, like you have to be just dreadful and not show up, or they just push you through to the next level. I think there was a point when my son was in grade 2 and I thought he's not going to survive grade 3 if they push him up, because his learning had stalled at that point. He was having a lot of problems. And I was just like, man, like, what is he going to do in grade 3? And then I guess turns out it was just product of the environment. I guess it was a bad teacher, because in grade 3, all of a sudden he just learned all sorts of shit and he was all like doing so much better. And it's like, well, that's fucking weird.
That's great.
But yeah, it was just kind of weird where I was like, man, I thought for sure we should hold them back, and then they pushed them through. But I'm like, there's like no consequence to what they're doing.
Oh my goodness,
until
Dad,
it's almost too late.
You nailed it. There's no consequence to
like they need to know, like, hey, if you're not paying attention or if you're not handing in your work, there's a consequence to that. It'd be like if I decided not to do half my job, then they would either not pay me for it, or they would ask me to leave,
or they would find somebody. Yeah, they're going to find somebody better who will do those things. And that's what kids don't understand. Instead of taking it as if I don't do the job I was hired to do, I don't do the assignment that I was told to do, I'm going to get replaced. In school, they hold you back, or like you said, you need tutoring, whatever. In reality, in real life, when you move on, if you don't do the job you're told to do, you're replaced. That's it. There's no, you can try again later. You can, start again. You're replaced. And now it's like, if they replaced me, it's because they were indifferent to my circumstances. They weren't sensitive to my fears. Nobody cares about that. An employer doesn't give a crap about that. They're like, I want this job done. Is this job done? Good. Is it not?
I mean, I get that, but I don't think that line of thinking isn't necessarily strictly to kids these days. I have recently worked with some folks that are much older than I am, who have had kind of the same, like, I'm more important than these people know, so I'll do what I want. And I mean, I'm in retail. I'll tell you this, retail doesn't give a fuck about you.
Nope.
You're a number, you're replaceable. It doesn't matter how valuable you are.
Yeah, no, my wife used to work in retail as well, and she told me the exact same thing you did. They don't care. Are you doing what they're asking you to do? Or are you not? And if you're not there every day on time,
Yep.
you don't check out every day on time, you don't fill out your card on time or your hour time, whatever, fine. You can do whatever you want. You're gone. And I dread to think about how the current generation is going to adapt to something like that if it persists, because I can't imagine a future where people are going to not want to have employees that actually work, regardless of their upbringing. And, bar a universal income situation, we're kind of going to be we're kind of understanding why AI might have a place to replace everybody, or they're trying to get AI to replace everybody, because the actual effort to want to build something is decreasing. And it's scary, but
if you circle back to that, what you're saying is, like, eventually, I speak to retail specifically because that's what I know.
Fair.
Eventually, if they move and they replace everybody in retail with robots and very little human interaction, they would need some. Okay, so great, you've done that. Every single retail store you go into, grocery store, clothing store, doesn't matter what it is. Every single one you've gone into now has very minimal people. So all of the people that used to work there now have no jobs and can't pay for things. Where is the money coming from? Like, where is your business making money? Because the people that were working, that were making money to pay their bills and would go and patronize your places with the extra money they had left over, no longer have money to do so. So you've replaced everybody, and now what? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, easy.
So that's the question I always ask. It's like, you can keep pushing towards automation and everything, but at what point do you have to stop? Because you're not going to make money because nobody has money.
No, and that's a reality. That's a true reality. And that's what's interesting to think about. We become fascinated by the things that we depend on eventually. And then when those things are taken away, water, electricity, the internet, suddenly we realize, wow, we shouldn't have been so dependent on these things. And then now we can't go back. I mean, there's no, you ramp up from 0 to 60 over the course of hundreds of years of technology. And if it's taken away, what's left? You have nothing.
Well, that's what I say. Let's go back to hunter-gatherers and let that problem sort itself.
I see your point now, Dan. I see your point now.
That just sounds like a lot of work.
I do. I do think that.
I mean, it's definitely a lot of work, but I don't know. But you think about it. What's one thing that hunter-gatherers didn't have?
iPads.
Healthcare.
Poverty.
Fair. It was sink or swim, right?
That's right. It's just about personal survival, and people would make connections up to, groups of, I think it was roughly 100 before that would collapse, before the idea of, being able to think of things that don't exist, thereby allowing us to create bigger groups by having better cooperation. They didn't have poverty. That's all they had was their own survival. So fuck it, go back to that.
And I think it serves a greater purpose too, because you realize that the success of survival increases the more you work as a community rather than individuals. And AI can or technology can tempt us to ignore community, ignore outside sources, and rely more on our own machinations. And we tend to think that, I have this magic crystal ball here that can solve all my problems. And it's kind of like, it's not that simple. You can get data or statistical values, but you kind of need real life concepts and understanding of people. It's easy on paper to sell something to someone based off of experience. But what about when you're dealing with a real human personality who's having a real problem, who's having real troubles, or hey, you know what? I can't ever seem to catch the elusive silverback bass, and it's really making my life miserable. And then there's Dan saying, hey, you know what? I know how to catch that bastard. You just need
hooking a worm.
Hooking a worm. You get this
fucking worm and bobber fishing. That's what you do.
Hook, and then you put a little bit of, maple syrup on the top of it, and then before you know it, you're going to be bringing in tons of them. And that's what people need. They need that human communication and interaction and connection, because foundationally, without any technology, that's what we are. We're a species that depends on each other to survive. And
that's how we got to the point we're at. The problem is, on the other side, is the people chasing wealth rather than community.
Fair.
So it's the people that are developing these things so that I can get rid of all the people that I don't have to pay, so therefore I make more money. Then you get into that cycle of like, okay, well, where does it stop? Because eventually you're not going to be able to make money. Because see, if all of this automation and everything was headed towards freeing the human population to be more free and have more time to spend with your families and do the things you want to do rather than the things you have to do, then all of this stuff is okay. But that's not where this is going. And I think you'd be foolish to think otherwise. Like that's it's all about the money. It's the people chasing the dollars.
Yeah. Oh man, guys, I will say that this has happened to be a very, very freaking awesome podcast, which I guarantee you is actually being recorded. There's no not recording this. It is recording.
I swear to God, if we end
Dan,
this and you fucking
Jeff,
message the group to be like, guys,
please,
I did it again.
I've been staring. I can send you a screenshot where I've been staring at the audio levels.
It is a long drive. I'd be willing to do it.
I've been staring at the audio levels all night in front of me, making sure those little damn green bars are going up. So, yes,
Did you do that last time?
I should have, Jeff, but I think I was still too. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna make excuses. I screwed up. I don't know what else to say. I screwed up. Crap. Anyway, but gents, I really do, truly, honestly, appreciate you being here tonight. This was one of the better conversations I've had in the last 3 months, and I really, really appreciate your time and your effort. I don't want to get into everything tonight because I want there to be more for us to get into next time. Before we leave, I have to touch on this. And not to change the subject, but just to make sure that because this is all editing, right? This is all editing. Everything I want everything to be in there, but not everything should be in there because then forget it. It'll be 4-hour long cut. Dan, I truly am sincerely committed to trying to get the D&D thing going again. I have some really awesome ideas for my character, his personality, who he is, not his class or anything like that. But I'll tell you, that's something I've severely missed over the years. And it means a great deal that you're willing to give us clowns another chance. It really does mean a lot.
Yeah, man. I don't have a problem running games. It's just when it seems to me like people are choosing when to be present rather than choosing to be present, if that makes sense, then I just go, well, you're wasting my fucking time. I'm not going to do it anymore. And it's nothing personal against you guys. You know, everybody has their own shit, but it just kind of fell apart last time. Like it does. And if that commitment isn't there, then you can't really have a long running game. But I did find in the home game that I'm running, 8-hour sessions once a month is easy to carve out, right? I mean, you have a whole month to plan out when it's going to be, and then figure it out with if work is an issue or, you know, with your partner or whatever, just to let them know, like, hey, on this day, I'm not going to be available for X amount of time.
Right.
And then it gives you something to look forward to every month. Mm-hmm. And then when you get that chance to just not have to worry about any responsibility and just play, it's weirdly healing, I guess you could say. It just makes you feel good. You're like, fuck, I just got to dick around. I didn't have to worry about anything else. And I love that shit.
And it's an excellent exercise for the mind that is normally not exercised. That's what I love about D&D. There's so many things we have to exercise. Finances, you know, making sure that there's home stability, peace, and all that good stuff. We never get to exercise the creative side. And I love D&D for that point in itself. And I think that there should be people who look to something similar to it, if not that, for their creative outlets. There's a whole ability inside of each of the human, race that is underutilized because they don't explore these creative ideas. So D&D is a great way to do that and have fun with your friends and maybe have a few bevs on the side and enjoy some good time, playing with your buds. And I know Jeff says that he'll be there, of course.
Yes.
I hear that Blark's going to make a reemergence, or it's going to be Blark's son.
We were doing new characters.
Blark Jr.
Wouldn't that be awesome, though? Everybody else gets a new character except Jeff.
That actually would be kind of fun. Did you do a surprise like the cameo I did in the last game?
Mm-hmm. We'll give it a twist, though. Like, for the first, 10 sessions, you're always, covered up and in a cloak and nobody has any fucking idea. And there's a big reveal at some point.
This would have been better if Pat wasn't here to listen to it.
I won't.
But yes,
That's true.
Why?
He's going to ruin the whole thing.
Why? I
he
won't say
will because he
nothing.
can't keep his mouth shut.
I won't say nothing. When do I say anything? I don't say anything. I will tell Dan this right now. Whatever happens in this campaign, my character will time travel through dimensions and murder Bartok. I have not forgot about that bastard. I'm going to take his ass down. He's going to be ground into dust and bones. He will go down. I don't even remember why I don't like him anymore. He's just going to
I don't know why either. I'm like, he's just a bartender.
No, he's not a bartender. He was the shop dude who's like selling people wooden. I don't know. I forget what it is. He's going down.
I don't think it was the same guy.
Not
I don't know, it's been a long time since I was in that side of the world. I did take your world and put the other group in it, though. That was nice.
Oh, okay.
Saved me a lot of time. But no, that's another thing too. Like, because we can run whatever we're going to do alongside, or I can have each campaign influence the other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if I set it in the same time, or even if I don't, you know, if they do something that's really cool and kind of changes the world, I could bring that over to the game that I play with you guys because it's in the same world, and implement that change. Like, I don't know that you guys would know that, but I would know that, like, that's because of them, or that's because of them.
Yeah. No, and I'm joking, and in reality, in my character context, I'm just saying that, you know, it'd be cool if there was a character who was like, oh yeah, there are these 5 people that went into the hell dimension, and I don't know what happened to them. I think they died. And then, you know, my character's like, I think I want to go find this guy. Yeah, but
that is now a tale lost to time.
Yes.
Lost to history, which is cool because I can also take that story and put it in the campaign that I'm hosting in person. You know, they can stumble across a tale of this group of assholes that, you know, were once in ancient Egypt and spent an hour trying to pop scarabs off the wall, or you know, anything like that, and then it becomes a mysterious ending for it as well. And then they went to the hells and nobody knows what happened because we never finished that campaign.
Any good story ends with a cliffhanger. I agree 100%.
Yeah, that's true. You guys gave me the perfect cliffhanger.
The cliffhanger that never came back. All right. Well, guys, gentlemen, I hate to ruin it, but we are running a little bit over. But I thank you guys for your time. I truly do appreciate this. I swear to Monkey Island, it is recording. I hope you all have the most wonderful of weekends. I hope you have a great chance to relax and breathe. And you have no idea how much it means to me that you stayed up past 10:30, Jeff. And I was trying to be very sensitive to that. And I hope you guys have a good weekend. But it was great speaking with you gentlemen again. It really, truly was.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, man. It's always a good time. Have a happy Valentine's Day. And for those Canadians that may be listening to this, happy Family Day.
Well, yeah.
That's our holiday on Monday. Shout out 3-day weekend.
Jeff, will you be my Valentine?
I guess.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Right.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
Bye.
Farewell.
So let's get it going. The Jackass Express. Welcome aboard, so let's get it flowing. The Jackass Express. The Jackass